They say that light is the fastest thing in the universe, but they never tell you that shadow is always there first, waiting for the light to arrive. I've spent my life chasing that shadow through the lens of a camera. I am a photographer of dead spaces, places where humanity has exhaled and never breathed back in. There is a specific kind of silence in an abandoned factory. It's not the absence of noise, but the presence of something heavy. I followed that weight to the edge of the industrial district, where the warehouses look like rotting giants. The sun was sinking, bleeding a bruised purple across the horizon. That was when I found it, a playground, tucked between two windowless steel monoliths. It felt wrong, like finding a fresh flower in a graveyard. The primary colors of the slides and swings were faded, bleached by years of acid rain and neglect. The air smelled of ozone and scorched rubber. I raised my camera, a vintage Nikon that usually catches the soul of a place. I looked through the viewfinder, and my heart stopped. The playground wasn't empty. Through the lens, the world was vibrant, saturated with a light that didn't exist in the real world. 4 children were playing on the rusted merry-go-round. They wore clothes from an era I couldn't quite name, dull wools and high socks. I pulled my face away from the camera. The playground was empty. Just the wind whistling through the chains of a lone, swaying swing. I looked back through the glass. They were there again, their movements jerky, like a film strip missing every third frame. One boy, sitting on the edge of the sandpit, looked directly at the lens. He didn't have eyes, just 2 smudges of charcoal where his gaze should have been. He pointed toward the yellow plastic tunnel at the far end of the play structure. I felt a pull in my gut, a magnetic command I couldn't resist. I followed the laughter that I could only hear in the back of my skull. I walked toward the yellow tunnel, the plastic looking like a rib cage in the twilight. I knelt down, the gravel biting into my knees. The smell inside was different. It smelled of old milk and wet concrete. I crawled in, my camera banging against my chest. The tunnel felt longer than it looked from the outside, much longer. The yellow light of the plastic began to fade into a dull, oppressive gray. I reached the end and pushed myself out, expecting the industrial lot. Instead, my hands hit cold, polished stone. I stood up, and the scale of the world shifted. I was in a courtyard so vast it could have held a city. The sky wasn't a sky at all. It was a ceiling of brutalist concrete, miles above, leaking a dim, sourceless light. Behind me, the yellow tunnel was gone. In its place stood a monumental school building, an endless wall of dark windows. It looked like a prison for giants. The air was perfectly still, yet it felt like it was vibrating. I looked down at my camera. The screen was cracked, the glass showing only static. I was in 7 Beyond. I could feel the reality here. It was thin, frayed, and hungry. I walked toward the school, my footsteps echoing with a hollow metallic ring. The architecture was impossible, angles that made my eyes ache if I stared too long. Then, the sound started. It wasn't a bell, not really. It was a low, grinding roar of metal screaming against metal. It vibrated in my teeth. It made the fluid in my eyes dance. The school bell of 7 Beyond. I saw them then, thousands of them. The children from the playground were pouring out of the dark windows. They didn't run. They drifted like ash in a draft. Their faces were all the same, featureless masks of gray skin. They weren't playing anymore. They were lining up in perfect, terrifying rows. The sound of the bell grew louder until I felt a warm trickle from my ears. I realized then that this wasn't a school for learning. It was a school for forgetting. The concrete sky seemed to descend, pressing the air out of my lungs. I turned to run, but there was no back. There were only rows of children, their charcoal eyes finally finding me. I am writing this on the back of a discarded test paper I found in the dust. The question on the paper was, how long is forever? The answer was left blank. I think I'm starting to understand the answer now. If you find a playground where the colors look too bright through your phone, don't look for the children. And whatever you do, Stay out of the tunnel. The bell is about to ring again, and I don't think I can survive the next lesson.